Iran too, the same. And then Iran, yeah. Which today is the southeastern Turkey. Now, Jacob's great-grandfather, Terah, brought his family from Ur to Bethlehem. And Jacob was headed to the home of Laban, Rebekah's brother. Now, the trip was motivated by two things. Like I said earlier, his brother Esau threatened to kill him, and he was looking for a non-Canaanite wife, specifically one of Laban's daughters. I can't help if I can pronounce it. Edogamy referred Endogamy. That refers to marrying within one's tribe or family.
Now we call it incest.
Yeah. Depends on how close. I guess second, third cousins, I guess. But
in the state of Texas, third cousins can legally marry.
Yeah, it's so many generations.
Crazy?
Yeah. I got tickled. I had a friend, his stepdaughter married a man that was a cousin, second or third cousin to her mother. And he's telling me, he said, I don't, they had a child. He said, I don't think it affected the child, it affected him. But anyway, the trip, like I said, by two factors. People did this to protect and maintain their family assets, values, and religious traditions. Another thing, even here in the United States, way back, people didn't travel that much. And there was, you might say, intermarrying. And of course, the boys here, the jokes about Arkansas and all that. Yeah. What was his name? I can't think of his name now. Yes, what was his name? Right, beat the girl, right? Yeah, that's the same one. He said that the man walked his son to school because they're in the same class. Redneck? Yeah, that's a redneck, yeah.
What? What did he call that?
He said, that wasn't me. I called him a redneck.
You go to a family reunion to meet a girl.
You just meet a girl.
That's not a redneck. A man be a girl?
What?
A man be a girl?
No, to meet a girl.
Oh, to meet
Go to a family reunion to meet a girl.
That's called dumb.
Okay, so we're going to move on. But following this practice, Abraham married his half-sister Sarah. We know the rest of that story. And Isaac married his cousin Rebekah. And shortly after arriving at the well in Haran, Jacob met Rachel, who would be first cousin once she moved. Now, we won't go into all that. But she was the younger daughter of Laban, Rebekah's brother. And you believe in love at first sight? Some people, yeah. It's like I heard, I think it said it's just puppy love, but it's seriously puppies.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
I met Larry February 7th of 1969.
Mm-hmm.
We got married March 28th, 1969.
Oh.
Larry got mess around.
No, that's right. Look at him. And he's doing this.
Don't worry, he has to go home and get
Right. Yeah. I met a lot of Halloween party. Okay, we better go on again. Anyway, do you believe that, like I said, Jacob was pretty forward? In verses chapter 29:11 said he kissed her. Jacob first made himself useful to Rachel by removing the heavy stone from the well. And then discloses, he's probably trying to show her how strong he was. And, kind of showing off things. And then discloses to her who he is, claims her as a cousin, and then kisses her. Then overcome with joy. Like we talked about that Bible study. We have to be careful, we avoid these holy kisses at church. You have to be careful. But then overcome with joy at this happy termination of the long journey and finding himself among relatives, he can restrain himself and feelings no longer. He burst into tears. Man, he was wore out too, for one thing, tired, and been family members, and the excited conversion of a beautiful woman. So in this outburst of emotion, we see the beginning of his lifelong affection for the beautiful young woman, who he thus opportunely met, or I say God's providence, that he met. Rachel invited Jacob to her home to meet her father, Laban. Now we're about to see that Jacob was about to meet his match. After standing him up and shepherding Laban's flocks, Laban offered to pay him. Because Jacob had fallen in love with Rachel, he asked if he could work for Laban 7 years and then marry Rachel. Well, he jumped at that.
7 years.
7 years? Goodness. I think maybe her looks may have kind of
She must have been a holiday or two.
Must have been. So anyway, Laban agreed with this, in which he probably thought was a pretty good deal. He was already scheming, which happened to run in the family, didn't it? Remember, Rebecca was his sister. After 7 years, Jacob was probably jumping up and down and said, this is the day I married Rachel. On the wedding night, here we go to see it. Laban deceived Jacob by giving him his daughter Leah instead. Yeah.
What do you say?
What? Well, they usually wore a veil, and they said it was at night. It was dark. I think he was so excited he wasn't paying any attention to anything. Yeah, he wasn't drinking that grape juice. Yeah, let's tell him we fixed some Baptist wine in this. But we had some grape juice that's been in the refrigerator for a while, and I suppose it was fermented. Yeah. So we didn't use it though. Yeah, right. So on the wedding night, the scripture says that Leah was weak-eyed. Now I thought some people said, of course, beauty was back then was a perfect woman with dark eyes, and said she had fair eyes. And I thought maybe she was cross-eyed.
What kind of eyes, brother?
What's that?
What kind of eyes did you?
Dull eyes.
No, she wasn't dark. They weren't dark. What some say.
She didn't have the beauty of the day.
Genetics, and we'll get into that later on. Genetics, but yeah. But like I said, I always thought, maybe she was cross-eyed. I don't know. But anyway, she wasn't beautiful. What we can gather. But the deception was possible, like I said, because the women wore veils, and it was probably dark. Now, can you imagine the next morning when Jacob woke up? And he rolled over. So Leah smiling at him. Nightmare.
With one big tooth right in the middle.
Yeah, probably one big tooth right in the middle. Yeah. But he immediately confronted Laban with his reply was, the younger cannot marry before the older. Well, now, he wasn't told that at the beginning. So Jacob agreed to the week-long wedding celebration. Then he would give Rachel to him at the end of the week. And also agreed to work for Laban another 7 years. Goodness.
7 years.
I mean, that's love. What did Jacob do but agree to Laban's conditions? After 12 children born, 11 boys and 1 girl, Jacob, we enter into today's lesson. So someone now read now Genesis 30, 25 through 30.
And it came to pass when Rachel had born Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away, that I may go unto mine own place and to my country. Give me my wife and my children, whom I have served thee, and let me go. For thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I can learn by experience that the Lord has blessed me, will I say. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served you, and how thy cattle with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it was now increasing to a multitude. And the Lord has blessed thee since my coming, and now then shall I provide for mine own house also.
After the birth of Joseph, Jacob approached Laban and said to him, send me away. In other words, I fulfilled my obligation of 14 years. It's time for me to get home. Those of you who have been deployed and you somewhere and met your obligation, I've met, worked out of town and met my obligation, it's time to come home. Some have experienced the same feeling as Jacob when you're nearing the end of your duty and your superior comes to you and says, there's been a change of plans. We need you to stay another 3 to 6 months. I had it was a couple, didn't work in the same office, but he was stationed, he was sent out to Panhandle to do some inspection work on a job. Well, he called me one day and he said, they told me this job wouldn't last but 2 months, but the job's not over. What do I do? I said, you stay till it's finished. Well, that's not what they told me. So I said, well, I'm sorry.
The truth changes.
Yeah.
Look, it ain't 14 years.
Right. At least it's not 14 years. Right. Exactly.
My father was supposed to have been released from the Army active duty on December the 8th.
Yeah.
On the 7th, Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Right.
And he got stop loss for 4 years.
I imagine so. Yeah.
When I was back in the church,
Yeah.
I saw an army, I got reported to Korea for a year. And I was walking back around sad, and one night he stopped me. He said, "Young lady there." And I went to World War II, and I didn't want to.
Right.
Yeah. So, I still sad, but I was like,
Well, and you remind me, we had a member, Charlie Leonard, didn't come. So that ended somebody that close. That hit home. That hit home. Maybe I was mad. I mean,
29 years old.
But 29 years old. And what good, I was still remember standing right out there, and this was the last Sunday, and I said, you better come back. He said, you say that like I'm not coming back. Oh, that,
Wow.
yeah,
Sometimes we say things we don't understand.
right. Yeah,
What that implicates.
right.
Did you think, why God?
Yes,
I
yes,
think that's human nature.
yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said, when someone's close, it hits home. It does. And I'm sure some of y'all in the military have experienced it. But let's see, where was it? Jacob was ready to go home. See his family, but and even some believe Rebecca had already died before he come back. Some say that she may have, I don't really know. But while he was still in the reign. But I'm sure there was, they didn't have internet then, so I don't know if he
Or
knew.
telephones.
Telephones, and if she was loud, and you talk about Brother Nagel, made me think, someone says, we were over in Korea, we didn't have any word. We might got a letter every month.
That's right.
So how things have changed.
And when Dave was in Korea, we could talk and see each
Right.
other.
Yeah, that's right. So Jacob said, let me take my wives or maids and my children. You know how hard I've worked for you. Now, under Jacob's labors in caring for Laban's livestock, Laban had profited quite a bit. Laban had learned, and I don't really get this, learned by divination that the Lord had blessed him because of Jacob. This could mean Laban had obtained hidden information by use of incantations or other mystical means. Such practices included consulting idols, examining animal liver, and looking in a cup filled with liquid. Now I have to think about it. When you're looking at a cup filled with liquid, I can look in a coffee cup and tell it's almost empty. And I need liquid.
I just thought that over the years, he thought, well, God must be blessing me because look at all what I'm getting.
Yeah, but why would he go to soothsayers and mediums and stuff to figure out why he's being
He
blessed?
was paying.
Yeah,
God spoke to that, so that
Yeah.
actually made it clear it was him.
right. So look, you read Leviticus 19:26 and then Deuteronomy 18:10.
He shall not eat anything with the blood, neither shall he use enchantment nor observe times. And then, there shall not be found among you anyone that thinketh his son or daughter to pass through the fire, or uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch.
They even practiced Canaanites, some practiced human sacrifice.
Yes.
They sacrificed some children, threw them into the fire. And then, of course,
Keep on that, there's power to God on that.
yes,
Child sacrifice.
yes. But I don't get into it's almost empty. Well, I said, I don't know why Laban had resort to such things. And all he had to do was look around and see how Jacob had increased his wealth through God's blessings. I mean, sometimes we can't see what the sun, can't see the forest, the trees. Yeah. And why he didn't see that was that when they came from they brought all the idols and worship of I don't know, all kinds of gods with them. And so Laban was probably scheming again to get Jacob to stay longer and ask, how much pay would it take for me to stay? In 31:7, Jacob speaking to Leah and Rachel said, your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. And Jacob knew Laban, it really it's probably, each time it's time for pay. And probably Laban said, well, we've had some problems, things cut like this, and I'm going to have to cut back on your pay, and this and that. And I always had an excuse, I imagine, to pay him. So Jacob knew Laban was up to something and would not keep his vow, so he came up with a better plan. So Jacob began to set his plan in place by starting with, you yourself know. In other words, you cannot deny how much you have profited from the Lord blessing me being here and working for you all these years. You know. In other words, you know how the things. If you just think about it. There's an old saying, in other words, he said, you didn't have anything when I came. You didn't have a thing. You didn't, when I came, we do know that he had 2 sheep because Rachel brought him the water. But, I can't repeat it, I can't say it, but there's an old saying, it has to do with the pot in the window. But, yeah. So I won't go any further than that. But Scripture doesn't indicate the possessions Laban had at the beginning. Like I said, we know he had enough sheep that Rachel brought in the water. Jacob asked a question which he really didn't expect an answer. She's asking Chris, what's that?
I don't get it.
I'll explain later.
Yeah, Chris explained later. Okay, Jacob's question highlighted the fact that after all these years, Jacob had nothing to show for it. Oh, okay. Got it. Jacob had nothing to show for it. What about Jacob's family? When would they get their share? The answer had arrived, the time had arrived, it's time for them to leave. Someone read down Genesis 31 through 34.
And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all thy flock together, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. And if such shall be my house, so shall my righteousness answer for me in the time to come, when it shall come from my heart before thy face. Every one the sheep that shall be counted stolen with me. That is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word.
Jacob's answer was curious and probably took Laban back. You shall not give me anything. Oh, that got his attention. Why do you think Jacob would respond this way? Now, some Bible commentators believe Jacob was thinking back to his vow to God at Bethel. There, Jacob affirmed that he would depend on God to watch over him, to provide him with. Did I jump ahead 25? No, we're okay. I thought maybe I jumped ahead. Okay. Some Bible commentators believe Jacob was thinking back to his vow to God at Bethel. There, Jacob affirmed that he would depend on God to watch over him, to provide him with food and clothing and bring him back to his homeland. In verses 20 to 21 of chapter 28. On the other hand, the wheels had already been turning in Jacob's head. He had been very successful in increasing Laban's livestock, and in his mind he knew he would be very successful and wealthy at no cost to Laban. Just do this one thing, and I will continue to shepherd and keep your flock. Okay, ladies, I've got him again, and I'm going to have to keep him here longer. So I can imagine Laban, like I said, was jumping up and down inside. He said, "Here's the deal: shepherds in the ancient Near East were typically paid a percentage of the byproducts of the sheep. They tended to receive the milk, wool as a percentage of the flock. But that was not what Jacob was requesting. He asked for his payment to be according to the color of the sheep in the goats. The most common sheep in that area were typically white. The goats raised in that region were usually black. Now, in livestock, you can have what you call a throwback. And we've had some on our place that a gene in an animal or humans will show up several generations later. My granddaddy Taylor was left-handed, but none of the children, the 6 children, were left-handed. And my brother was left-handed. I said he couldn't touch his nose with his right hand. He was so left-handed. Now, my sister ate and wrote left-handed. Seth eats and writes left-handed. And a cousin that's left-handed. But it skipped a generation. And so then they had a cow, and this story blew by. They had a cow that called Tiger Stripes. They had markings on them that looked like not real distinctive, but like a tiger. They called them Tiger Stripe. They had, stripes similar to it, but not real distinct as a tiger. But several generations had a Tiger Stripe calf born. I mean, this was several generations later. There was that gene, that genetics in there. Laban had some offspring that were spotty, speckled, multicolored, but it wasn't very common. So removing the multicolored today meant eliminating the likelihood of many more multicolored animals being born in the future. So I can just imagine Laban was thinking, I've got him now. So he'll be working for me the rest of my life. These animals would be Jacob's wages. What Laban didn't realize, God would bless Jacob. Did I give you Genesis 28:15? Okay, if you read that.
And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land, for I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of.
So Jacob got the advantage. He's got God on his side. But Jacob even went so far to say, you can come check on my wages anytime to verify my honesty. If any livestock is not speckled, you can consider stolen. So in other words, this is kind of hard. Jacob was put in charge of taking care of the pure animals, the ones that weren't spotted or speckled. So Laban jumped at this deal, certainly had outsmarted his son-in-law. Accepted the terms of the new working contract Jacob proposed. So what did Laban do? The very same day, he had his son separate the multicolored animals from the flock, moved them 3 days away. And of course, this is the first mention of Laban having his sons. You're talking about his 2 daughters, but this is the first. Some say that it couldn't be from the previous or another life. We don't know. But Jacob would continue watching the rest. Whatever would be born from the solid colored animals would be kept by Jacob, which would be very few. Laban was setting up his son-in-law for failure, he thought. He didn't figure on God being in the picture. And it's, like I said, I think Joseph was right aware that God was going to take control. And he would take control. Joseph was appointed to keep the white and sheep and black goats and all the others, but there wouldn't be genetics involved. Wouldn't be born? But he would get the ones that were born. He couldn't get the ones that were already multicolored. So it was kind of like I said, Laban thought he had a good deal, you know. And that's one of the, when they say this, I make you a deal you can't refuse. Yeah. If they say that, you need to refuse it. Yeah. Yeah. So someone read now verses 41 through 43.
Whenever the stronger of his flock came breeding, Jacob placed the branches in the trough. They would review the flocks, and they would breed them in front of the branches. As for the weaklings of the flock, he did not put out the branches, so it turned out that the weak sheep belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones, and the man became very rich, and he had many flocks, female and male slaves, and camels and donkeys.
And Jacob, now this is what you can't even figure out. Jacob placed branches of poplar, almond, and plane, or the sycamore trees, at the watering locations. He then peeled the bark where the white was exposed. Now, there are several theories as to why Jacob did this, but there's no real explanation as to why this was done and the effects. I went through every commentary I had, and I hadn't even went online and could not find anything with positive answer to this, why he did this. Jacob was probably the first person to practice selective breeding of animals and on the study of animal husbandry. He knew his livestock. He knew, and I think he knew the ones that were white, that did have offspring that belonged to color. I think he separated them out. And the one theory was that Laban's sons were poor herdsmen and didn't keep close watch on their animals, and some of them strayed over into, even though it was 3 days journey, but during time, we're talking about 6 years. During time, they may have strayed over there and mated with the white or black animals. And but that's one theory. In turn, they stayed into the flock like Jacob was tending and mated with the solid color. The branches were to keep the weaker animals away, allowing only the stronger animals to enter. If you have a theory, I'll be glad to hear it. Read the shepherd. But like I said, there's really no real theory. I've even heard one theory is when the animals rubbed against the branches, it marked them. And I don't think marking them made them look discolored. I don't go for that. But no matter the reason, God was the source of the success. He says he had the shepherd. God knew the genetic material that was hidden in the current generation of sheep. In other words, there may have been some, say, white sheep, but there was some genetics in that sheep that gave the offspring of multicolor. God knew the genetics of each one. God blessed Jacob's efforts. In other words, like I said, God was in charge of all this. And like I said, even though, like I was talking about the tiger striped camel, we've seen it with any animals, even people. We've seen, we've got people that say, well, you look just like your brother, just like your dad. That's genetics, and so forth. But like I said, God was in charge. That's the main thing. God blessed it. And God blessed Jacob's efforts. All told, he worked for Laban for 20 years in 1 month. He worked for him that month before he was married to Leah. Before he approached to marry Rachel. 6 years after he paid his obligation to Laban, he was exceedingly prosperous. I mean, he was very, very rich. He had many flocks. It said female and male servants and camels and donkeys. But I think I was reading further in chapter 31. I think I have the answer to why this genetics, in other words. But I want to read that in it's verses 10 through 11. When you go back, though, it said, go back further than that. It says, now Jacob heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all of our fathers and from what belonged to our father, he has made all this wealth. In other words, the laugh was on Laban, the last laugh. And but he saw that the attitude of Laban, and behold, it was not friendly toward him. I can understand. He was upset. He had Laban could look out there and see all these multicolored animals, and where was his white ones and black ones? Just very few. But going on to verse 10, it says, and it came about at the time when the flock was mating, that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream. And beheld, he's talking to Rachel and Leah. The male goats which were mating were striped, speckled, and mottled. Then the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. He said, lift up now your eyes and see that all the male goats which are mating are striped, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. God took care of it. God took charge of it. And they were mottled.
They may have been a lot stronger or more healthy.
Well, that's what
than
he
the white
did.
ones.
Yeah, he used it. And I think that maybe one theory why he used it, because it took the stronger ones to work their way through there. But like I said, he had studied. I mean, he spent years out there with the herds and studying the reproductive and studying the mating of these animals. So he was no dummy. And really, I don't know. I look back before he went to the land. Esau was the shepherd. So he learned from somewhere.
From his father.
He learned from his
His
father.
From his father.
From his father, yes. They learned, and it's all handed down. So he learned all this. Like I said, it wasn't just, well, I say by chance, but it was God's plan in it. But God used his Jacob's intelligence and to do this. But I was watching Robert Jeffers this morning, and it reminded me of the story he told. And he said his daughter had had 3 miscarriages. And she told him one day, she said, I've prayed to God since I've lost 3 children, God to give me triplets. And he said, he said, honey, he said, there's no record of any triplets in our family, even twins. She said, well, I'm going to have triplets. She had triplets. She had.
Someone has to start.
Someone has to start it. Yeah, someone has to start it. Exactly.
That's faith.
Yes, that's faith. And of course, like I said, we sometimes we want to put stipulations on God, and so that could never happen. Well, just look at me. My daddy was 6'3", my brother's 6'3". Look at me. I got left out somewhere or another.
It happened to Roger too.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. So it happens. And I used to get so tired of people saying, "What happened to you?" I got kicked out away from the table. Another one says because I didn't eat.
Reach your potential faster.
Yeah, that's right. The rings get faster. Yeah. But we're all what God intended and wanted us to be. And like some of the basketball, I feel sorry for some. I'm 7'4", 7'2". I mean, I really in a way kind of feel sorry for them.
Get in the car.
Yeah, get in the car. Where they buy their clothes? That's 6'8". And I've seen people have to go to walk through with 7'3". I mean, the normal ceiling is 8 feet. And so, well, like I said, I feel sorry for them. They get the cost. I think they said the average height was 5'9", 5'10", something like that. Yeah. So, but I do go back to say, well, I've heard said that the average height in Jesus' day was probably about 5'3", 5'2", 5'3". So I can say, well, I've been tall back then. Except for Saul, he was head and shoulders. Said he was head and shoulders. Some genetics in there somewhere.
6'1".
Yeah, 6'1" probably.
Aren't most Jewish men today still kind of short?
Well, basically, a lot of them are. We still have those as tall. Even in some of your Asian, even Hispanic, some of them but I've known someone that were huge.
Yeah,
Hispanics. And so, you never know. So it's like I said, I don't know how far back the genetics can go, but like I said, that cow I've got, that was several years back.
Yeah.
And what was funny about it, strange, it was a cow that belonged to her neighbor, and it kept jumping the fence. And
That's
he'd
fine.
go and get it back. Finally, Daddy said, "Just sell it to me." And she's gonna come over here anyway. So, but anyway, it is. It's we've got we got the time. We've got some livestock. I had a what's called Simmental bull.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they can be black or red or even multicolored. And I got a cow come from multicolored. I call them two-tone. They're black and brown and white. Well, we had a black cow at one of these multicolored calves. And I mean, this is after that we sold it 30 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I thought when I first saw the calf, well, it belonged to that multicolored cow. But it didn't. It's a black cow. So you never know. Like I said, but anyway, I had people get, "Oh, you're going to start growing one of these days." I did. No doubt. Got the witch, yes. So we got 10 minutes. Any comments or share some of the genetics?
I like how you said about that. He was a hard worker.
Yes.
He knew at the end of the day that he needed God's blessing.
Oh, yeah.
Because what I've always learned from that lesson, we always were like, what's he doing? He did as much as he could do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the person that God really can use, that knows that. Kind of like, and I want to be careful how I say this, because I want to make it think that it's our hard work, it's God blesses, but Paul worked as everything depended upon him, but he knew he didn't. Mm-hmm. But he knew God would be working out, like his sons weren't working hard, they were just complaining about their parents.
Sure.
So at least he was trying all he could to exhaust all of his God-given physical abilities and mental abilities.
Yeah.
But he knew at the end of the day, all of his flocks were from God. I think that's the person that God will use. So I think we think in the Christian life, I'll just pray and sit back and wait.
Right.
And God's like,
No,
you worked hard.
That's right.
That's right. But there's a fine line where I think that, hey, I did this, why wouldn't God bless me? And I think that's why he pointed out all the speckled and the olive branch. He knew at the end of the day that that's all I could offer.
Yeah.
And that didn't do it. God's the one that did it.
Right.
God will use the person that humbly works hard and says something for the best. The one that just sits back and says, "Well, God, you didn't dump it in my lap,"
Right.
Well, and looking ahead to next week is when he wrestles with God.
Yes.
And of course, they got out of there. I mean, later on, so we got to get it. So Laban didn't know till 3 days
God
later.
is possible.
Yeah. So he went after him, but God told him in a dream, "Don't you touch it.
That's right.
Don't you touch it."
You would have killed him.
You killed it. So
Do you think Laban learned anything from this?
I don't know.
It doesn't say.
What gets me, and there's no explanation, Rachel stole one of his idols.
Yes.
And he went all through the camp searching for this idol, and that's the rest of the story.
I knew it didn't
How she was
say.
hiding it.
It just shows you how
She was sitting on
important
it.
God really is.
Yeah.
We're all susceptible.
Yeah, but there's nothing anything else said about that. She stole one of his idols.
I think she's for the money to sell them.
Well, I think she said, "Well, we're not getting anything."
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
To be a layman.
right. Had to be a lady.
But to Miss Flo's question, I like to think that he saw that Jacob was such an influence when he left that he thought, I've got to get with this God, because now look how everything is done, because he didn't have much before he got there.
Yeah.
He saw what he did over 20 years. I like to think that he said, yes, I will serve
Well,
that God.
That's what
I
I
would
wanted
hope,
to
it doesn't
know.
say, but I would hope that
Yeah.
that's like when we leave this, or for people to think about our lives and think that, I was with Steve Tompkins and I saw Jesus flowing through him.
Yeah.
And so I'm in my flesh, like, well, I don't need his Jesus, like that. So I guess it works both ways. But I think that I'm hoping that he saw that and thought that, and after he left, there were no blessings again. And he thought, hey, you know what? It was the God behind it.
That's what I wanted to think. And then-
And I hope we don't get from this too, in the previous lessons, that God gives us the right to deceive. Because he's going to bless it.
I just
That
don't.
caused a lot of problems.
I don't see how he could see how God blessed Jacob And he knew that he blessed him
Yeah,
and still had idols.
yeah, they still go to these mediums and stuff like that.
You know, it could have been an easier street without the deception.
Yeah,
It's kind of a catch-22.
oh, yeah,
The guy still worked with him and still grew him and then blessed him. But I think it would have been less than 20 years if he would have dropped the deception.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
oh, yeah.
He did get what he was.
Yeah.
He needed that much longer to get that out of his life. Like you said, he bet his match.
Yeah, he made it right. Yeah, he should have realized that was his mother's brother. That's one of them genes that runs in the family.
That's crazy.
Well, some people will just be that hard-headed.
They have to, yeah. Somebody just
They
have
can't
to.
see.
I had a boss one time, I said it'd been easier for him to tell the truth than it would to lie. But he had to lie.
The first 7 years were awesome.
Yeah,
My mother always said it's much easier to tell the truth than to lie. And she did, and not meaning that you're gonna get your bottom wet, but it's so much easier.
God wants Judge Judy, I remember what she said. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Amen to that.
And there's some scripture somewhere that kind of touches on that. And I can't remember where it is, but I was reading that. I think, what does she mean? You know, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Because if you tell one lie, you got to tell another.
Well,
Then you get what you lie.
Cover up, cover up, cover up.
Right,
And like Saul did, you eventually start contradicting.
right, exactly.
Well, people witness stuff in court and they lie about it, and when they bring them back up again, they can't remember exactly what
Right.
they said.
Yes.
That's right. It's a telltale sign.
Well, it's about that time. That's Virginia's business.